Arthur Kerr is an artist who hasn't been in the gallery for very long. I think I first started showing his work around about autumn of last year. He approached me when I was working on Tom Shanks's solo exhibition, and I will always remember this because when I looked at the portfolio of work that Arthur sent me images of, I instantly saw comparisons with Tom Shanks's work. They're very different because Arthur paints acrylic on board or on canvas, and Tom obviously is a watercolour artist. But I think it's Arthur's graphic quality. So by that I mean there's a real strong sense of line in his work with all the black marks that you can see here, and also within his sketchbooks that I've seen images of, he makes these most beautiful pen drawings with colour washes. And then of course, if I show you Tom's work, you can perhaps maybe start to see some of those similarities or comparisons yourself. It's not easy to see because of the reflections in the glass, but you can see Tom has this beautiful use of pen. There's always beautiful pen work in his watercolour paintings. And to me, Arthur's work definitely bears some kind of comparison with Tom's work because of that. I really like Arthur's work. He's based over in sort of mid Argyll, and he's part of Art Map Argyll. And he was going to have an exhibition with me here in the gallery with his wife Margaret Kerr around September time. We've decided to postpone that until next year. So he will have produced a whole new body of work for that exhibition. So that's very exciting. In the meantime, I've got these three pieces which Arthur created after spending a sort of almost a residency on Orkney. And they're very, very striking. They're over in my section of the gallery that's all sort of vibrant colour and texture. But this piece here just keeps drawing me. You need a bit of distance, I think, to look at it. And what he does is to flood his surface, in this case it's board, with colour. And that takes quite a while to dry. I think he said it takes about a day to dry the surface, and he'll quite often work on more than one piece at a time. And then once that background colour is flooded in and dried, doesn't like working on a white, pristine surface, he'll then start drawing over that colour and building up his image. So here we've got this cliff face on Orkney, with sky in the top left-hand corner, and then the majority of the piece is dominated by this sort of looming cliff that sort of almost seems like it goes on and on and on up into the sky, never ending. Quite architectural, I suppose, in that it's very, very angular, and that's sort of accentuated by Arthur's strong diagonal lines. I'm not sure at any point in this, perhaps except here, if there are any just verticals. It's all slightly angled, and that's clever because what it does is it gives a sort of dynamism to the piece. There's a sort of a movement, so your eye sort of moves up, and for me, I mean, everybody's different, but for me there's a kind of whoosh, there's kind of a quick upward movement to the piece. It sort of shoots off up into the sky, and it's nicely balanced with this section here, which is different shapes altogether, sort of suggesting sort of slightly more rounded, curved boulders or stones on the bottom of the beach. And the textures of the rocks are incredible. So just by building up his layers of colour, so layer upon layer, background colour, and then different ways of applying his paint over the surface of that, you can almost think about someone like Jackson Pollock, where there'd be splashing and movement. I think in Arthur's work, movement, the more I look at it, becomes quite key. I can imagine him being quite sort of active when he's making it. It's not a sort of sitting down close precision, it's a kind of moving around and almost having a sense of fun in his producing of these pieces, actually. And the colour is incredible, it's so eye-catching. And I wonder, never having been to Orkney, whether there is this, if there is this colour in the landscape, if this is a realistic sort of depiction of it, or whether there's a bit of artistic license, or I think I remember going up north to the northwest of Scotland, and I had seen paintings by an artist before that of that area, and I thought, oh, those colours just they're nonsense. They're nothing like what they'll really look like. And then I got there, and yes, there were these vivid turquoise waters and red colours in the sandstone. And so perhaps it's all to do with the moment that you stand in a landscape and the way the light falls, and in this piece Arthur is just capturing a moment, a sort of a vision in front of his eyes that was gone in an instant but stayed in his head, and he's reproduced it in this painting. I think this is probably a piece that I could live with for a very long time. I love the way the sky is done quite differently as well. It's much softer, much more sort of gentle marks that he's used to make the sky, with those sort of fluffy clouds and those beautiful blues, but of course balanced with the blues that are in the cliff face and the boulders at the bottom. The other two pieces are not quite as easy to see because they're glazed, but that same sense of colour and graphic quality to them, I think.